So you did it. You built a company from scratch, you led a team, you hustled for capital, you lived and breathed innovation. But now you're looking for a traditional job, and it feels like your biggest win is suddenly your worst liability. What gives? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack right now and map out a clear path for you to make that next big career move. I mean, what if I told you that building a company from the ground up, your greatest professional achievement, actually makes you 35% less likely to even get an interview? I know it sounds completely backward, right? Unfair even, but the data shows this is a very real challenge founders are facing. And you're not just imagining it. This thing actually has a name, the entrepreneurship penalty. It's a documented, systematic bias where corporate hiring systems basically filter you out because of your founder experience. So the most important thing to get right now is that this hurdle you're facing, it's a known issue. It's not a personal failing. And this is where the scale of the problem really hits home. That 35% drop in callbacks we just saw? Yeah, that's from a London Business School study. But check out this second number. A study from Rutgers University found that a whopping 60% of recruiters react less favorably to a founder's resume. That is the bias we need a strategy to get around. Look, to beat the bias, you got to understand it first. So let's do this. Let's get inside a hiring manager's head for a minute and break down the 5 biggest fears they have when they see founder on a resume. Once we know what scares them, we can figure out how to put those fears to rest. First up is the fear of the maverick. They're looking at your resume and thinking, okay, this person is used to being the boss. Can they actually take direction? Are they going to listen to their manager? Or are they just going to go rogue and do their own thing? And right alongside that is the ego question. The logic in their head goes something like this. How can a former CEO possibly be happy as just a member of the team? They're worried you'll see the job as a step down, get resentful, and just mess up the whole team dynamic. Which of course leads to their next big fear. You're a flight risk. Hiring managers have this stereotype in their heads that all founders are serial entrepreneurs who are just, killing time until their next big idea strikes. They don't see a long-term employee, they see someone who's going to bail in a year. And then there's the money. There's this automatic assumption that you're going to have these totally unrealistic salary demands because you used to be a CEO, or that you're going to ask for a huge chunk of equity that they just don't give out for this kind of role. And finally, all these other fears kind of get wrapped up in this one big question about your skills. As a founder, you are to be a jack of all trades, a total generalist. But big companies, they hire specialists, and they're looking at your resume wondering if your broad experience is actually deep enough to do one specific job really well. Okay, so that's the bias you're up against out there. But you know what? The biggest battle is often the one that happens right inside your own head. Before you can convince any hiring manager, you have to convince yourself. So this next part is all about winning that inner game, rebuilding your confidence, and totally reframing your mindset. This quote from Max Kane, a founder who landed his dream job less than 6 weeks after his company folded, it's just so powerful. He says the very first step, the most important one, is to just own it. Don't run from the failure. Embrace it. Look yourself in the mirror and say it out loud. Because that kind of brutal honesty is the only way you can actually learn and move on. So how do you do it so fast? Well, Kane laid out this simple 4-step framework. It starts with that tough internal work we just talked about, embracing failure. Then he says you have to build an external structure, like a training plan for a marathon, to keep your spirits up. And only then, once your head is in the right place, do you move on to the practical stuff, figuring out what you actually like to do, and then mastering how you reach out to your network. All right, with that mindset dialed in, you can stop just randomly applying for jobs and start running a real strategic campaign. Let's start treating this whole job search like a project you're meant to lead, and break down the process. A winning job search isn't random. It has phases, and look closely at the timing here. The first 10 weeks are all about laying the foundation and doing your research before you even start applying like crazy. The big takeaway here is that all the hard work of networking and applications works way better when you've built it on a solid base of strategy. It really helps break a huge, scary process into chunks you can actually manage. So where do you even start with networking? Right here. This is the single best strategy, hands down. Start with your investors, your board members, your advisors. Why? Because a referral from them isn't just a name drop, it's a signal. It tells their other portfolio companies that you've already been vetted by people they trust. That warm intro is your golden ticket to bypass the initial screening and just totally neutralize that entrepreneurship penalty. And now we get to the most critical, tactical part of this whole thing. Look, you can't change your past, but you can 100% change how you frame it. It's time to stop thinking of yourself as a failed founder and start rebranding yourself as a uniquely qualified, battle-tested candidate. This slide right here, this is a game changer. Seriously, look at the difference. On the left, you've got the title that triggers all those hiring manager fears. On the right, the solution. You aren't lying, you're translating. You were the head of product. You were the VP of biz dev. You have to rebrand your title to match the job you're going for. It immediately changes the conversation from why are you here to what can you do for us? Next, you've got to totally overhaul your resume bullet points. Stop listing what you were responsible for. Start showing off what you achieved. Use the CAR framework. What was the challenge? What action did you take? And what was the result? And quantify everything. Numbers are your best friend. They cut right through the bias. Scaled ARR from 0 to 2.1 million is so much more powerful than managed revenue. It's the concrete proof they need. In the interview, they're going to ask about your startup. You know they will. So you need a crisp, confident answer ready to go. Use this 30-second formula. 15 seconds on what the company did, 10 seconds to call out one huge, quantifiable win, and then the final 5 seconds, you share a key lesson you learned that applies directly to the job you're interviewing for. This lets you control the story and turn a potential weakness into a massive strength. So here's the bottom line. The end of your company is not the end of your story. It's just the end of a chapter. All that experience, the good and the bad, has prepared you for whatever comes next in a way nothing else could. The only question left to answer is the one staring you in the face.